We're all living in a world gone geek. It's time to geek hard or go home. The podcast is real. Here's your host, Grounded Geek.
Hey everybody, welcome. We are back. World Gone Geek is back in the house, with the house being the internet, and here we are, live on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. And we are grateful to see you guys. It's really been a while. We've taken the summer off, done some things. It's been, a bit of a cruel summer, leaving me here on my own. It's very much been a cruel summer. Now you've gone. That was Bananarama, by the way. One of my favorite songs. Actually, one of the things right before this, I was thinking of that song and actually looked it up, and I was actually disturbed to find out that if you Google "Cruel Summer," Taylor Swift comes up in the search results before Bananarama. So that was a little bit of a smack to my age. But there's no knock on Taylor Swift. I like her music, but I didn't even know she had a song called "Cruel Summer." So congratulations to her for knocking Bananarama down the Google results list. But now we're not gone. Now we're back. We are here and ready to do the show some more. This season, we have got a lot of great guests actually lined up for you. We have some really cool stuff coming in the months to come. And tonight, we have a really fun topic to talk about because we saw an amazing movie recently. But it wouldn't be any fun for me to talk about it by myself. So I'm bringing in my friends here. Of course, with me is Utah, a.k.a. Koyuta, and Aliyah, a.k.a. Lalia. We just realized before the show that was an inside joke.
Sorry, I was just reading.
I know that looks like an interesting book. We may have to discuss that later. Welcome, guys. How you guys doing?
Greetings, programs.
You haven't been able to say that in like 3 months.
Oh, it felt
at
good.
least. Yeah,
felt good.
Yeah. We haven't seen each other. We occasionally talk on Facebook and things like that. We finally actually got to physically in 3 dimensions see each other for the first time. Actually, since this podcast began, I've seen each of you individually for various reasons, but never the 3 of us together in one place. I couldn't even prove that you weren't the same person until Saturday.
There was a time where I think Aliyah and I were the same person. We were just pretend.
I thought Utah had two cams pointed at himself. No, I'm kidding. I don't know where that was going.
But definitely taller in person, so
that's true. You're so much taller. No, but it was great. We got together on Saturday to see Shang-Chi, which we are going to talk about in just a little bit. But how was your summers, guys? Aliyah, how things go for you this summer?
Yeah,
you don't have to share all the dirty details. How are you feeling now that we're back, I guess, is the real question.
No, my summer was great. Overall, it was a really great summer. Summer and autumn are my favorite seasons. So definitely being able to be outside and just enjoy the weather before the very, very harsh bad word comes. So yeah, the summer was really good. Got to visit some places that I'd never been, and nice. I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, and we need to. I need to call attention to the fact that obviously Aliyah's connection is not the greatest, and she is now broadcasting from a bunker in an undisclosed location.
Look, she's
on a Nokia 3000 from 1993.
She's using a satellite,
which I didn't even know those had cameras, but apparently they do.
Well, I'm just preparing for we're going back. So
yeah, you went way back with that webcam
before us. Gotcha.
Yeah, got it.
Just making sure it still holds up, right?
Okay, you're right.
Yeah. So yeah, Utah, your summer, what's been up, man?
Oh, I have a feeling that my summer was a lot like a lot of other people's summer. That I don't really remember what I did because I think I didn't do a lot. There was a lot of binge watching. I remember a lot of good shows came out. Marvel was a big help for me because they put out a lot of good shows that I got to watch. But yeah, nothing exciting due to Delta variants and whatever else. And so it was, I would say, an uneventful summer. but it wasn't bad. It just
Yeah.
there wasn't anything super memorable. Like San Diego Comic-Con would have been great, and that's always usually one of the highlights of my summer every year. But just like last year, it was canceled, and they did a virtual thing, which was even smaller than last year because they're doing a small special edition in-person one in November, which I'm not going to go to. I'm just not ready. So
Yeah.
but you know,
I hear
it was
you.
a good summer.
I'm sort of in the same boat. I didn't do a ton either. San Diego Comic-Con, I actually skipped all of it. I didn't watch any of it.
There wasn't a lot.
I don't know. And none of it like was really screaming out to me like, oh, I really got to see this one. And I think part of it wasn't really San Diego Comic-Con's fault. This is not a knock at all. Except for, they're pushing a lot of stuff to November, hoping that they can get some live stuff. I think we're going to see some cool reveals at that one. But then again, a lot of these companies don't have anything big to reveal because they revealed it all already and then couldn't release any of it. Now we're finally getting all of that, right?
Everything, there's a huge backlog, yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's like, well, here's Dune again, and
right.
the Eternals again, and guess what? There's a Spider-Man movie coming out again. It's
Hey, remember we were going to make a James Bond movie? Hey, that's coming out.
Hey, that's coming out. Yeah, I just don't. So there's really like the stuff that they're working on now. They're not ready to reveal because it's been delayed so much. But so I think that's part of it. Yeah, I did get a chance to get out to an actual con. It was very small, the Neo Comic-Con here in Cleveland, Ohio. I got a chance to go to that. It's they had everything spread out a little bit more and less booths and vendors because they're trying to separate, and keep people distanced. And they asked you to please be vaccinated or wear a mask and things like that. So they were being safe, but it was a chance to get out, and that was really great to see people in costume again, see people that I haven't seen in a long time. At these kind of conventions, ran into some friends there, which was really great. But yeah, that was kind of fun. But other than that, I just kind of sat home and watched all the great stuff Marvel was putting out. And let's just really briefly talk about that, right? I mean, first of all, we finished up Bucky and Sam and Bucky Power Hour right before all this, right before the summer. We were still doing the show then, and then Loki followed a little bit after. And holy cow, what was that?
That was
so
fun.
good. By the way, I just mentioned Loki, which means we may throw a quick spoiler or something out. But you should have watched Loki by now. Come on, it's been out. We'll try not to spoil Shang-Chi because that literally just came out. But you've had time to watch Loki. I don't got to spoil things, but we did get to meet a new character who's going to be very, very important, I think, in the upcoming phase of Marvel movies, played by Jonathan Majors, who was phenomenal in that role.
Yeah, he was excellent. Totally.
And I think the performance of this character in the other movies is going to be very different from this one. So he's going to really get to show his range, which is awesome. He gets to play around, and that's not spoiling because the next phase is going to give him the opportunities to really expand on this character. It's going to be fun. But yeah, so I mean, thumbs up for Loki, all of you. What do you think?
I was super impressed at how integrated, all of the Disney Plus shows, right? How well integrated they are into the MCU, because we've had Marvel try television shows that they say were part of the MCU, like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and they ended up not really being part of the MCU.
Yeah, they started out like they wanted to be, and then
they just forgot about it. But like all these Disney Plus shows, especially Loki and WandaVision, their stories that they gave us have such huge repercussions for the greater MCU that we're going to see reflected in the movies coming out, that I've been very impressed with how well they're telling this story, this huge story arc for Phase 4 in these TV shows and then also in the movies that we're having coming out.
It's kind of genius the way they've connected
It's
everything.
amazing how well it's all working out, especially since everything's out of order, right? Because of COVID, the movies were supposed to come out before some of the shows and everything got kind of shuffled around. So
what'd you think of Loki, Aaliyah? Impression.
I'm trying to remember everything because I know that we kind of
good then, huh?
I mean, a lot of time has passed since then. But I'm the one that's supposed to be forgetting everything everything that he saw 3 months ago.
Aaliyah, you're not nearly seasoned enough to have that.
Right.
Keep in mind, a lot of stuff happened this summer.
That's fair.
Very true.
That's
That
fair.
is fair.
That
You
is
know,
fair.
but
We'll have to have a special episode, as we talked about earlier, that will be available for Patreon subscribers only, where Aaliyah will
I
tell you
feel like- I
exactly
feel
what
like
happened all summer.
I feel like Aaliyah Summer is a Disney Plus show.
How much is that worth to you on Patreon, folks, to find out what really happened to Aaliyah this summer?
I think Aaliyah Summer is like an MCU Disney Plus show. I think
I literally was. Do you think I was like put into a multiverse or something? I'm seeing what this
Could
other
be.
side of me is
Could
going
be.
through.
Could be.
Could be. But anyways, on that note, because a lot of stuff happened this summer, being able to have those Marvel shows and just binge watch different things really, really helped me. And
I
so
remind you every week.
He does. Utah is fantastic and infamous for his guess what day it is. I do it every single Wednesday or Thursday, depending on what day it comes out. But
Right.
I did enjoy Loki. And I'm excited. There's supposed to be a season 2, right? They're coming out.
Yeah,
with season
that's
2?
what
They
really
announced
surprised
season
me. Because that's the first show that's literally like confirmed in the show, hey, we're coming back.
Yeah.
Because WandaVision appears to be a one shot. May not be. I mean, who knows? They may do something,
It
but
should
they
be.
haven't. It appears to be a one shot that's going to be continued in movies. Sam and Bucky, same, right? Because we already heard that Captain America is getting a new movie, and it's Sam,
Movie.
which is fantastic. Can't wait to see that. So those are confirmed to be continued in movies. And Loki literally at the end said, hey, we're coming back. Like there's a season 2. Even though I think we're going to see some repercussions in movies still, he's going to be
absolutely.
back with some adventures, which I loved. And I thumbs up for me too. I think it was fantastic. Marvel, again, like we said, was very busy because Black Widow was finally released. Notoriously only on Disney Plus, which has got some litigation going on now with Scarlett
both.
Johansson and Disney.
It was released day and date, both in theaters
Right.
and
Yeah, you know what I mean. But I mean, like it was the first one to be like
to do both.
contentious for doing it that way, because one had been held on for so long. Like they sat on it forever, and when they finally did release it, it's in both. And Scarlett's not very happy about that, and I get why. I mean, I totally get that. Disney should have, figured out how they were going to handle that before
because
they
I
did
feel
it.
like there should be like legalities that go into play.
Well,
as far
actors
as that,
typically, they'll typically sign a contract that gives them some sort of royalties or box office or whatever it is, and if they agree to that, and then they're like, we're
then
not
they
going to
change
put it
the
in the box
release.
office, right? Yeah, like literally, if I said, hey, I'm going to pay each of you as soon as this podcast goes live for all the people to see it, and then I put it on our Patreon account only, that has only one subscriber right now, which is Utah, and then therefore you guys got nothing, you'd be pretty mad, right? I mean, you'd be mad because you're like, wait, I thought we were going to get something, and then you didn't even release it to people who are going to see it. So they split the box office with Disney Plus. Who knows if they split it, but I'm just saying, like, whatever. Some of that money went here and some of it went there. She's like, well, are we going to see some of the Disney Plus? And it may have soured a Russo brothers project that was in the works, because they're like, wait, what? You guys got to figure this out before we sign a contract.
Yeah.
So I think it's good. Emma Stone did the same thing with Cruella. And there's been some contention about like, oh, why are they doing that? Well, I think it's fair. I think it's fair for them to expect Disney to like answer, say, what is this? Like, obviously the world is changing, so should our contracts. Let's figure this out. So hopefully they'll figure it out, and the Russos will be back, because I don't want that to not happen. I love those guys.
Yeah, we like the Russo brothers.
We want another Marvel movie filmed here in Cleveland, and that's the only way it's going to happen.
The Russo brothers are Cleveland boys doing good. I mean, come on.
But overall, I did enjoy Black Widow. I thought that it was a really, really good movie. The ending, it kind of upset me. The ending definitely upset me. Because
Let's not spoil it. We'll let people. That's a little closer.
Well, I mean,
so we'll leave it. Yeah.
We all know that, thanks to Infinity War /
Oh well, we know what happens to her in Thanos eventually. But in the movie,
part,
people may still want to see it. So I'll let that go. But you did like the you did like the movie. What did you like about it, Aaliyah?
I I love when they dive deeper or like delve deeper into character development. So being able to kind of see her background and really understand, we've heard little bits and pieces of Black Widow throughout Marvel, but just for me, someone who's never really read the comic books, being able to see that and see really firsthand where she like the life that she lived, and like that traumatic, I guess, childhood. I don't know what you want to call it, but
Yeah.
Well, having grown up in Ohio, I can relate.
Yeah, we found out she grew up in Ohio, so that was kind of interesting. But
yeah, no, I thought it was great overall. So.
yeah, Utah, what was your
I
overall impression of?
I enjoyed
Black
it.
Widow?
I liked, like Aaliyah said, I liked the information that we got about her backstory, kind of her family, so to speak. Right? Vin Diesel would love this movie because.
Her parents cracked me up.
It wasn't. I liked the dynamic. I kind of liked the fact that it was kind of a more grounded film in terms of there weren't like a lot of superheroes, superpowered. So it was kind of. It reminded me a little bit of Winter Soldier and how kind of grounded and melee combat it was, which was nice. Yelena was my favorite part.
Of course.
Loved her to bits. And
you always pose when you land. Sorry,
spoilers.
guys. Sorry. Spoiler alert.
But no, overall it was a great movie. The ending, I feel like the last bit of it could have been a little bit better, but overall it was a good film. I enjoyed it. I like seeing. I wish there was more Budapest though.
Yeah,
that's not enough Budapest. I need to know more.
We got
about
a little
Budapest.
bit of that.
I
thought Black Widow was really great. It was not at all what I was expecting. And what I loved most about it is I still feel like Winter Soldier is one of my favorite Marvel movies
It's one
of
of
all.
my top.
I just really love how it combines so many different genres into this that I like into this one kind of cool thing. And Black Widow was the closest movie to do some of that same stuff, the espionage, a little bit of history, a little bit of, there was some, similar to Bucky and Cap, we had, the past coming back to haunt
them. Yep.
Black Widow, as far as the character, in Taskmaster, we found out was connected to her past in some way. So yeah, things like that. It was very Winter Soldier-y in that way. And so I love those aspects of it. I really enjoyed it. I thought the action was like amazing. It was really over the top, which is a lot of fun. That's what you expect in a good Marvel movie, is some out of unbelievable action, and not just unbelievable like, whoa, that's cool, but unbelievable like, yeah, right. There's no way any human being would have survived that. But I mean, they survived this. That's a comic book. That's what people do. You suspend disbelief, right? I loved it. I thought it was a lot of fun. And then after that, they just kicked off What If, and we've gotten 3 episodes so far.
3. Yep. 3.
Yeah. And how cool is that show? That's a lot of fun. That was always one of my favorite comics too. I used to pick those up. One of my favorite ones is What If the Punisher's family hadn't been killed?
Right, if they survived.
And because I was a huge Punisher fan back in the day, and read all of those comics. And when that one came out, I was like, oh, that's interesting. Let me find it out. I don't want to spoil it for you, but let's just say Frank Castle's life is cursed no matter what. So you would think that it was, that's a good thing that happened. Not necessarily.
You would think that he'd become this great, like an accountant somewhere or something. But
maybe.
No.
Yeah, but anyway, so yeah, the show has been great. We got to see Captain Carter. That was phenomenal.
Oh, that was phenomenal.
We got to find out that if Black Panther had gone into space, we never would have even had Endgame, because apparently Thanos really likes Black Panther,
so
and he didn't talk him out. People are like, oh, only Black Panther could talk Thanos out of his Endgame. He didn't talk him out of it. It's like their relationship made Thanos a more understanding person. And yes, he still had the idea, but because he was, with these people, he's like, you know what, though, you're right.
That was such a great reveal. That was such a great reveal, too.
Yeah.
I love how everybody kept saying, like, well, that seems like genocide. It's like, no, that's not genocide.
So great. But that was a really fun episode. episode. And what I love is I can't believe the people's voices. This was our last chance to see
That was,
Chadwick Boseman
Boseman's
as
thing.
Black Panther.
and
I like
So
that
that was
memoir
really
at the end.
interesting. And apparently I read something about it that he was the first one to sign on to that project when they announced it.
Wow.
Oh.
When they said they're doing What If, he was like, I'm in. Count me in. He wanted as many chances to play T'Challa as he could because he knew what was coming. And that to me made that episode
That's so
so
bittersweet.
much more, bittersweet. But yeah, just it was. I was
so
just
much
like,
more meaningful. I mean,
this was his, swan song. He's like, I'm gonna do T'Challa one more time, and look what he did. He saved the universe. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Which is just kind of amazing when you think about it. But
yeah, I'm still mad at Star-Lord. Anyway,
we could do a whole episode of me defending Star Wars because not defending what he did, but yeah, people have been giving him a hard rap. But
I tease.
yeah, there's a lot that didn't change because of T'Challa. So that universe still has other threats that are coming.
Yeah, but it's also interesting how what's his name? The collector, how he
Yes.
just becomes the all powerful being or
Yeah.
whatever, you know.
Yeah, that was kind of interesting. And then now there was 4 episodes so far because then
You're
we got
right.
to see the Avengers.
we got
What
to see
would
the
happen if the Avengers all got like
murdered.
serial murdered, which was interesting.
Oh yeah, the Hulk.
Yeah, the Hulk was basically the Marvel's way of answering the question.
That's as close to the Ant-Man Thanos meme that you're
yeah.
ever going to get from Marvel.
People, I don't know if you've heard this meme, Aaliyah, or not. Maybe you have. But people said that the way Endgame should end is Ant-Man should shrink down, fly into an orifice that I will remain nameless on a human's
Really?
body.
Oh, come on.
It could go.
should-
Technically, he could go into
Okay.
any orifice.
All right,
so
fine.
to only choose the orifice that people chose is really crude. His butt
Because
is
it's the
what I'm
most
saying.
memeable.
He could go in there and then expand
up
into
Thanos'
giant
butt, and
Ant-Man, and then he would. That's how you could kill
Basically-
Thanos.
Yeah. Which
Aaliyah's face. Oh my gosh! If you're listening to the audio podcast, you're missing it. You should really be watching us live on Sundays
because if you think about it, theoretically, that would work.
yeah, but it would be
Okay.
very
And-
ghastly
and
and gory.
Right. And so, and to a certain
Yeah, but I
extent,
feel like we also saw that on like the Magic School Bus or something. You know, like
Yeah, they want to make sure
Wait.
not to expand
Oh
the
my
Magic
God.
School Bus
Oh,
while it
you're
was inside.
right.
Right.
In the behind the scenes bloopers, they actually did that and killed somebody because the magic bus expanded.
yeah,
I'll have to find
I'll
I'll have to find that on YouTube. I'll send the link to you.
That's why they had to recast Miss Frizzle for the new season for Netflix
Correct.
because,
Yeah, because
she got
that
canceled
was-
because of that.
Well, I
Wait,
mean,
did that really happen? Or is that a joke?
no, it's a joke. It's a joke. It's a joke.
But anyway, so in the Hulk, Ant-Man went in there and expanded Hulk's heart until he blew up, and that was just crazy.
So wait, what happened to Clint? What is his name?
Hawkeye?
Clifton?
Clint.
Yeah.
Clint
Whatever.
Barton.
Yeah, Clint.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
How did he die? in
Yeah,
that
what
one?
happened in that one? Did he just like?
I
go in
don't
his
think
neck
they.
or something?
Yeah, I don't think they actually said exactly what it was. It's just that somehow in his prison cell he was killed, and we just don't know.
Yes, that's right. They found him in the They
Yeah,
found him in the
I don't
prison
think
cell.
they actually said specifically what it was, unless it was also the same poison that got Iron Man. I can't remember.
You know, but, and then it's also confusing. Like even with excuse me, even with Thor, like he just got shot by an arrow. I feel like he's been shot by many things.
Well, but
keep
you
in
know,
mind that at that time in the Thor movie,
He was
he
still
didn't
kind of-
have his powers
Oh,
because
yeah,
he couldn't
yeah.
even. He wasn't even worthy to lift Mjolnir because he
Right.
had gotten ejected
You're
from
right.
Asgard
You're right.
and all that. So
Right.
He
he
hadn't
was killed
even-
just like anybody else.
he hadn't even had a cup of coffee yet.
Yeah,
And we
I
know
think that was
that's one of
before
my
the coffee, right?
That was one of my favorite scenes from that.
I
movie.
like it. That was the best. And then the most recent one was Doctor Strange. We really got to see what
Oh,
messing with the
yeah.
multiverse can do, and
That was good.
it really has got me,
That was another well-done
wondering about the Spider-Man movie now with
Right?
Strange, and because
Right.
we see that Strange is, at least in the trailers, is willing to mess with that. So, and he shouldn't be.
And
Which
he kinda-
which has really gotten me concerned about, like, something's up with Strange in this movie, don't you think? Like, I don't think he would do that.
Yes. Well, that was.
But
my
he is
first
pretty
thought.
egotistical, though.
He is an arrogant guy. We kind
Yeah,
of
even
forget
though
how
he-
arrogant he is, right?
Yeah.
But also,
But-
that one didn't end in like a positive note.
No, it didn't. No, not really. It was still kind of because
That's
in
true.
the end,
Because in
isn't
the
it
end,
like
he was still.
well in the
he
end.
was-
There was only one way that it could end, and it was either that he gave up the girl, and we don't want to spoil it for people. That one's a more recent one, but that was great. It was great. Well, What If is great. If you're not watching it, you should be watching
Yes.
it because they take
Yes.
storylines and mess with them that would never be messed with in the MCU, and
But
we
I'm
can
also
see
curious
what would
about
happen.
the Watcher. Like, who is
it's
this guy?
really. His name's Awatu.
Yeah, Uatu, the Watcher. There's a race of them, and all they do is just
Is watch.
It
pay
reminds
attention
me
to
of the
what's going on.
Timekeepers.
the what
The Timekeepers.
in what?
Timekeepers are different.
I know, but
Oh,
it reminds
I
me.
gotcha.
Of them.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh.
I gotcha. Yeah. I mean, the MCU could try to connect those two, but I think the Watchers are just that. They just watch
Well,
stuff.
and then you have to remember the timekeepers were fake.
I
That's
know,
true.
but the guy, you guys said his name earlier. I
Oh,
can't remember.
He Who Remains.
He Who Remains. Yes, that guy. That's who it reminds me of. Like this guy that just like is in the sky.
Oh.
he's the
Well,
king, and
if
just watches
you-
everything.
And that I could see that, especially if you haven't read the lore and read other comics. But the Watchers are a race. Like there's more than just that guy. He's the main one that we see.
He's the one that
In
we're
fact,
kinda
if you watch
following.
one of the Guardians movies, there's a bunch
Yes,
of Watchers
there's
sitting on a
there are a
rock
couple of
talking
them.
to Stan Lee in one of the in one of the
right.
scenes. It was a post-credit scene, or it was when they were flying by.
I think they
or
were
something.
flying through with the portals.
I think they flew by, and
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
like
And Stan-
having a
he's,
chat
like,
with some
explaining.
Watchers.
And so that time, I dressed up like a delivery man.
Yeah. He was like giving the behind the scenes on all of his cameos, which led
Which
more and
makes all
more
that
people to think
canon.
that Stan Lee is a Watcher.
Yeah.
That's why he's in all the movies. That's what they're thinking.
Which I love. I love that theory.
I love that theory too. It's awesome. Anyway, so all of that to say, Marvel's been very busy over the summer, and now they're kicking off the fall with a bang because Shang-Chi was just released on Thursday, and we are about to jump into that conversation. That's what we're gonna do for the rest of the show. But before we do, I just want to take a quick moment to let you guys know and remind you that we have merch, right? We have shirts that have World Gone Geek on it. We've got a lot of what am I trying to say? The different movie geek stuff that's available at TeePublic. That's going to be in the notes on YouTube and in the show notes of the podcast. So make sure you go and check out our merch store. There's some really cool shirts. And here on Labor Day weekend, a lot of the t-shirts are only $13. There's still shipping, but if you buy a couple of shirts, it only averages out to a couple dollars per shirt for shipping. So at $13, you're still getting a pretty good deal on some shirts. But they're really fun. They're really good. You can get a World Gone Geek shirt. You can get a Surf Arrakis shirt. Get ready for Dune, which is coming up soon. We've got some other shirts like that too. And I also want to remind you that you should really go see our friends at johnscrazysocks.com. John's Crazy Socks is a great place to get socks that are crazy. They've got great designs, a lot of geek-friendly designs, and the company is just top-notch. They're fantastic. It's run by a dad and his son, John. John has Down syndrome, and together they put together this company. They run it, and if you order socks from John, he will send them to you with a personalized note and some candy and things like that. They just really take care of you as a customer. They have a Sock of the Month club. Check it out. If you go, use the code WGG10 and you'll get 10% off. Or maybe it's WGG. All of a sudden I've forgotten the code. But anyway, you can go there and use that code to get 10% off your purchase. We get nothing from that, just so you know. I am simply telling you about John because I love the company, I love the socks, and I think it's a really great cause. A lot of the proceeds for those socks go to Special Olympics, so got to check it out. That being said, I'm about to hand it over to my good friend Utah, who is going to introduce and kind of kick off our topic for tonight.
What
Go
could it
for it.
be? What could our
I don't
topic
know.
be? Could it be a movie that just opened this weekend that's been delayed forever and finally has come out?
I think so.
Yes. We're going to talk about one of the comic book characters that not many people know about, Shang-Chi.
They're about to.
What a great movie that was. But we're going to talk about the movie in a little bit. But anyway, so
Who is this guy, Utah?
he's some Asian kid. No. So just a little bit of history about Shang-Chi. He is a kung fu master. He was created back in 1973 during the whole big kung fu chopsaki sort of, trend that happened in the early 70s. And what Marvel wanted to do was they wanted to jump on that because Kung Fu, the TV series, had just started being broadcast, and they thought that this would be a new trend they could jump on and sell a lot of books with. But Kung Fu was owned by Warner Brothers, so there was no way Warner Brothers, parent company of DC, would let Marvel have that character. So they came up with their own character, original character named Shang-Chi, which in Mandarin roughly translates it to Rising Star. The problem was the editors at Marvel didn't think that an original Kung Fu character would sell, so they wanted something familiar in terms of Asian characters. So they licensed Fu Manchu.
Which is a villain from some books or something, right?
Which is a villain, an old British villain from some old British books. Rumor has it that the author that created Fu Manchu went to a Ouija board and asked, "I need to create a character and a villain for these stories I want to create. What do you think?" And allegedly, no, there's no proof of this. Nobody knows this for sure. But allegedly, the Ouija board spelled out Chinaman, and that's when Fu Manchu was created.
Really?
Wow.
Sounds really weird, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, so they made Fu Manchu the father of Shang-Chi, and Shang-Chi started off as an assassin for his father, but then realized his father was evil, and then went off and joined MI6 and British Secret Service to foil Fu Manchu's plans and also just do good in the world. So that went on for a decade. It had 125 issues, which actually isn't a bad run in general, especially for an original character that nobody knew before. And then the last one was in 1983, and that's actually where I first met Shang-Chi, was in the early 80s. I saw him on the grocery store rack because at that time, comic book stores were not around a lot, right? Anytime you got a comic book, it was always in a grocery store rack or a bookstore rack. And so I saw that on the grocery store rack, and I thought to myself, there's an Asian on a comic book cover, and I haven't seen that. And I am, at the time, 83, I was 12 years old.
I thought you were going to say, I am, at the time, Asian. At that time.
And at that time, I was still Asian. And so I thought to myself...
I totally thought you were... I was like, what are you going with this? Okay, sorry about that.
Oh, it's true. I was Asian at that time.
Yes.
And I thought to myself...
Funnily enough.
Right. Coincidentally, I thought to myself two things. One, there's actually an Asian superhero on a comic book cover by a big comic book house, Marvel. And I had already been a Marvel fan because of Spider-Man, right? Mm. And so I thought to myself, that's amazing. And then I also thought to myself, do I want to be the Asian kid at the grocery store reaching out and buying the Asian comic book? Because also at the time, I was growing up in kind of white suburbia. So I didn't necessarily want to sort of put a spotlight on my difference because I was the only Asian kid of two at my elementary school. And so did I want to, and I felt like if I went to buy that comic book and take it home and be seen with it and talk about it, that I would be amplifying my otherness. And subconscious, and that actually was the first time I started realizing, oh, wait a minute. Why am I thinking like this? Well, it's because I've always been different, and it never really hit me as a child. But seeing a reflection of myself in a place that I didn't expect it made me realize that, oh, well, there are very few places where I see myself or someone like myself reflected in media. And so that kind of stuck the seed in my head like, oh, this could be something, this is a thing. But anyways, so Shang-Chi they stopped publishing Shang-Chi in the early 80s, and he came back every so often in various crossovers. And it wasn't until probably about the 90s that he became less of a trope. He didn't speak like a fortune cookie, which he did a lot in the early comic books. Technology had come to a point with comic book publishing that he didn't have to be yellow-orange in skin tone. He was a bit more natural in skin tone. And his appearance kind of normalized a bit to what is actually Asian versus the bowl cut, slanty eye, a little bit, He was modeled after Bruce Lee, but there were still things that they did, especially with Fu Manchu, that were very much steeped in very, very racist tropes, and the whole yellow peril thing that started back in, I guess the 1890s, really. But thankfully, with this movie and with the announcement of Shang-Chi, and even in the more recent comic books that Shang-Chi has been in, all that they do very much push away the racist history and the racist roots of the origination of the character. They very much put it away. They want to very much obviously reinvent and kind of make it a more true story for Shang-Chi, which I'm very happy about, because to have an Asian-led movie from Marvel Studios with an Asian cast and an Asian director and Asian writers, number one, is only the fourth Hollywood movie since 1993 to have an Asian cast, which is amazing to me. But also to be a Marvel superhero. And the superhero movies are kind of the thing now, right? They're kind of the thing for this generation. And so now kids have, much like Black Panther, kids now have a superhero that looks like them, that they can relate to just, innately. And not only that, but the story also in the movie is very much relatable as an Asian American immigrant. So even though Shang-Chi, and there'll be people out there that say, well, Shang-Chi comes from very racist roots, and look at Fu Manchu. To them, I say, well, you know what? That was decades ago, and Marvel obviously knows better now than they did 40, 50 years ago. And so I'm glad that they're erasing it and moving forward and giving us something like this, because it's representation matters, both in front of the camera and behind the camera. And I'm glad that Marvel is committing to it between Black Panther and this and Eternals. And, they're not just in it for, we have the first black superhero, we have the first Asian superhero, we have the first female superhero. They're in it for the long haul. You see the Marvels coming out, you see all of this. So I'm glad that they're continuing on this trek versus just going, hey, we did this once. So,
yeah, that's great. I mean, and I love how this. What you were saying, like, people are kind of, what about the backstory? What about the history of this character? And to me, it's like, well, what about it? Like, this is the perfect time to kind of like redeem that. Let's get that out.
Absolutely.
Let's take what was wrong and fix it and do something. Yeah. Instead of saying, oh, well, that was a terrible idea and it was stereotypical and it never should have happened. Okay, maybe you're right. That's true. But it did happen. But you know what? We have the opportunity now to fix it. Yeah, we can rebrand that as something positive, and I love what they're doing with it. I think it's been great, and just to see, I mean, we've been friends for a very, very long time, and just to see how excited that you have been since the announcement of this, just, you know what I mean? Like, I know that it is important to you, that it means something to you, and so that makes me super excited about it as well. I mean,
it's it was amazing. I was there in 2019 at San Diego Comic-Con when Marvel came up for their panel, and they announced all of these movies. And the two movies that really hit home for me were Shang-Chi and The Eternals. And they announced The Eternals first, and the cast was brilliant because they're kind of literally recasting the Eternals, not as just some ambiguous celestial beings, but they actually purposely got Chloe Zhao, now an Academy Award-winning director and writer, to to direct this movie, and then they got a wonderfully diverse cast to play these Eternals, and I like that direction, and I'm excited to see where that goes. But then when they announced Shang-Chi, I'm mad enough to admit I started crying because I remembered how much seeing Shang-Chi on a comic book meant to me as a kid, and so and then you hear the story that Simu Liu was told he was cast as Shang-Chi. Oh, and by the way, in 2 days you've got to fly out to San Diego from Vancouver, so we can show you off to 8,000 people at Hall H in San Diego. So, I mean,
That's fantastic.
I hope that I wasn't too overbearing about my excitement for Shang-Chi, but
Oh gosh, no!
I couldn't help it.
I mean, it's infectious. That's what I love about it. Like, and again, it's just I have a lot of friends that were equally excited about Black Panther when it was coming out. You know what I mean? And it's so great to see like this type of excitement about the diversity of movies. And like you said, with Eternals, like what a movie to make diverse, right? These characters that are eternal, immortal, like protectors of Earth, right?
Yep.
There is absolutely like no ridiculous way that they would all be one particular race or another, right?
Exactly.
Like these are the protectors of Earth over eternity, over these immortal time period, and it represents a lot of different people, which is fantastic.
Super diverse cast.
It's just going in ways. All of these movies are going in directions that are exciting to see, I think.
Absolutely. Just like Black Panther was a watershed moment for that community, I truly believe that Shang-Chi is a watershed moment for the Asian community. And I'm hoping that it's very successful this weekend, just as more proof that, people will come out to see these stories told by these people. It doesn't have to be what we've seen from Hollywood over the past, hundreds of years. This is, we're ready as a society. We're ready for other stories than the ones that we've seen, and so I'm really, really looking forward to it.
Well, I want to get into what you thought of the movie, but let's kind of go around. Let's start with you, Aaliyah. And again, just for everyone to know, this was our first time getting together. This was really fun as a group. Utah was so excited for this movie that he rented out a theater, because theaters are doing that now, which is amazing. And it invited us and a bunch of friends and their families, and we got to go see this movie. What did you think of it, Aaliyah? Did you enjoy this movie? Like, what are your initial thoughts?
So I was definitely not like Utah or yourself, Jeff. I didn't really know much about Shang-Chi before I saw it. But I have like a very strong passion for like Japanese Asian culture, and I hope that's not like cultural appropriation or anything along those lines. I appreciate it so much because
you can be a fan. Being a fan is not appropriation.
Yeah, exactly.
But I just like, I don't know. There's something about the history and even the moments in Shang-Chi that was just. It was just beautiful to me. I don't know. Even when they like the father son clashing, but yet they were still like there was still so much love to be felt. That I just. It's like you want. I don't know. I love the movie. Let me just start by saying that. But I definitely had like moments where if I was alone, I probably would have cried. But I was sitting next to Jeff, so I was just like there were times where
you were holding it in.
I was. There was moments where I was just like, "Oh, this is."
You could have let it out. I was feeling a little emotional a couple times too. There's some stuff in there, man. It was well done.
It was very well done. I wished that I kind of had those moments where, like you guys, where I could have, was a kid and saw comic books. It was just like but I didn't grow up like that. And so to hear your story you tell, it's just so, I don't know. I even kind of had to put myself on mute for a second because I was getting a little emotional. But yeah, it was such a beautiful moment. And I'm so glad that you got to experience this movie. And I'm very grateful to meet you in person, not virtually, but also, but just to experience that movie with you guys, because it was definitely a great movie. So.
Yeah. I think I was the same way. I think for me, I didn't know what to expect. I'm going to be honest. Like, I expected the Iron Man formula that was repeated in Doctor Strange was sort of repeated in Ant-Man, was sort of, now don't get me wrong, they're good formulas and they work in all those movies and they do them uniquely enough each time to make me entertained by them. But I was expecting that here. I expected, okay, we'll get a little bit of an origin. There's going to be a big bad. He's going to have to fight him. He'll win and we'll all be cheering at the end. And that's great. Wow, this movie just kind of flipped all of my expectations on their head. I've seen some trailers now that do show some of the mythical things that occur. So I don't think it's a spoiler to talk about the fact that, and I hadn't seen those prior. So when the mythical Chinese mythology and stuff that they infused into this movie came to life, I had no idea that was coming. Like, I was like I dropped my jaw. I was like, what is this? And I was just like, this is crazy. This is, and in a good way, this is not me like, I'm just like, whoa. Like, it like went from, like it had these great roots in the great Kung Fu movies and other, action, movies that I loved as a kid. It starts out like those, he has to fight guys on a bus. Don't be wrong. That was the greatest scene, one of the greatest action scenes I've seen in any Marvel movie, hands down.
It was fantastic.
It was phenomenal.
Looking at him.
But the way the fight happened, like, it happens that way in so many of these, like, look at like any of the movies with the Kung Fu heroes and things like that, right? They're walking down the street and some guy is like being, braggadocious in front of them. And and they fight. And of course he defeats them and you realize, oh, he has all these power. I didn't know you could fight like that. And he's pretending not to have it up to that point. And it's just some of that. That wasn't like a stereotype or a trope, though. I mean, that was it was more of an homage to like that style of movie, the way they did that. And they did it again in a unique way that made it kind of like, we're taking this back. We're doing something cool with it. And man, they did. The fight on the side of the building was
the scaffolding. Yeah,
that one felt very Jackie Chan. There was a lot of stuff that happened in there that I was like, oh my gosh, this is like, these are inspired by some of these great actors, these legends who have made some really great movies over the time. And then and I'm going to butcher how to pronounce it. The Wuxia, wuxia, is that how you pronounce the
wuxia? Yeah.
With the wire fu and things, with the Crouching Tiger and all of those, movies, obviously
all
movies,
those movies right.
Further back, Crouching Tiger's freshest in my memory because I love that movie so much. But just being able to kind of homage and do that as well, I was just like, what a love letter to this type of filmmaking this is, because those films homages aren't as appreciated as they should be. They're appreciated by people like us who, well, like Aaliyah said, who have this like passion for that culture, who don't necessarily live. You're either in that culture or you're somebody like me or Aaliyah who have seen those movies or grew up with anime or watched, Kung Fu movies on kids. They were always on Saturdays and I watched them all. I love those movies. Bruce Lee, I grew up on those movies, like that kind of stuff. To see this movie kind of just really just embrace all that and just bring it to life. And then go into this fantasy world full of the Chinese mythology that has been with the dragons and things. Oh my gosh.
So
like
so
I can't, I'm just gushing. I know at this moment, I can't stop talking, but it's the movie surprised me in so many ways. It was just so, usurped what I expected in such great ways that my family here, I mean, the kids that came with me, Utah, some of them were debating whether this was the best Marvel movie they've seen.
Wow.
And I don't know that I don't know that it's there. It's definitely up there. I'm trying to
It's up there
decide.
for sure.
Like, it's not
Yeah.
like there was not a moment where I was like, well, no, it's not the best. I literally have to think about it. I'm like, it was really good. Oh my gosh, you're right. Is it the best? Like, I have to really get there. If you're trying to decide whether or not to see it, it has so many elements it's just so much. The scale of this film is so much larger than the trailers give it credit for. It is phenomenal. It was so fun. The action was just, and again, like I said, those 2 action scenes I mentioned at the beginning, I don't think I've seen an action scene in a Marvel movie yet that has had me that on the edge of my seat. Like, I was so concerned for the characters. Do you know what I mean? That I was like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Are they okay? Is this going to be okay? It was phenomenal. Utah?
I
got to stop talking. So take over.
I had high hopes for this movie. I tried to, I'll admit, I tried to kind of temper my expectations because I know how important, at least to me and to the Asian community, how the success of this movie is. And I was thoroughly blown away and impressed by what they've done. It's incredibly, it's fantastic. I mean, you can see the difference that having people behind the camera, having Daniel Cretton, David Callahan, having Asian Americans and Asians behind the scenes writing this and filming this, it gives us a certain nuance and I think an importance to the material that you wouldn't get necessarily if you had a different set of directors and writers. And from the get-go, they all agreed. Even Simu Liu was saying that when he met with the director and the writers, they said they all were on the same page. They had a list of things they wanted to break or destroy in terms of all of the stereotypes or tropes or everything else that came before this movie, because they wanted this movie to be relatable for everyone, and also to kind of show that, hey, our community isn't nearly as different as you might think. And so I think that shows in the final product, because really this movie, to me anyway, was all about family. All about, again, Vin Diesel, you're going to be happy. But it was all about the kind of contentious relationship between father and son, which is one of the most important relationships in Asian culture, and almost, I think, more so than others. And so it was great to see that kind of story. And then the fights were, of course, amazing. The choreography was outstanding. I dare say that the fights in here are some of the best in the MCU. And that first fight, I don't even want to call it a fight. That first dance, was,
oh my gosh,
between Shang-Chi's father and mother was just so incredibly moving and
Elegant.
beautiful for me. I mean, I just couldn't believe how beautiful it was done. I mean, it's very much wuxia, very much Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, or Hero,
That's
or
exactly,
Fearless, or Ip Man. I mean,
House
it was
of
just
Hidden
House of
Daggers or
Flying
whatever.
Daggers.
Flying Daggers.
I mean, it was just so beautifully done, and you've got Tony Leung and Fala Chen, and just those glances that they shared in the fight. It was just, I found myself so moved by that, and it's kind of hard to describe why, but it was just so beautiful to watch. And the emotional content behind it all was also very powerful. And then the bus fight was just, it's one of my favorite fight scenes I've seen on film.
So
it was
great.
just so well done. And Simu Liu very much channeled, very much a great homage to the old Jackie Chan films with how it all started during the fight. The little beats, comic beats in between the fight. It was just all so well done, and like you said, there are so many great homages that they did so well in this movie that was really just amazing and fantastic. And yeah, there were a couple of times where I cried. I was just moved to tears by some of this stuff. And sometimes Marvel movies have the little problem in the third act where, like, the big battle can be a little CGI heavy, and it doesn't bother me so much just because everything else is so well done. Like in Black Panther, that final fight on the train track was a little
Yeah.
CGI heavy for me and took me out a little bit, but I still love the emotion behind it, and I still love that movie. And I was concerned once they got to that act in this movie. I started wondering, like, ooh, are they going to be able to pull this off? And they did. I didn't have an issue with it at all. Of course, I might be a little biased, but
Well, I
but
think
all of it was just so beautiful.
yeah, I think I like kind of what you said there, and I think people who have an appreciation for the culture of these movies, and that type of those homages and stuff, who have that appreciation are gonna love this, and I think those who don't yet have that appreciation are gonna see this
And will.
and appreciate it. Do you know what I mean? Like they're gonna gain. Like you're gonna look at this and go, "Wow!" Like this is really cool. Like I just remember the first time I saw, a Bruce Lee movie. You know what I mean? Like I was like, what? What a fascinating thing. This is like this. The different. The fighting, of course, is always phenomenal, but he was great at just kind of bringing these different types of themes to those types of movies. It was not just, oh, who's going to be the next bad guy in front of me, the face down. You know what I mean? Like there was like an emotional content to some of that kind of stuff. And then there were other ones where there weren't, and that didn't matter. They were still fun. The fights were so good. You didn't care, right? You just wanted to see that, because you're right. The fighting is so lyrical and it's like a dance, and then it almost really is a dance, but it's just this it's beautiful. It's a ballet of a violent ballet, I guess is the best way to, do you know what I'm saying? I don't know how the best way to describe it, but it's a ballet where somebody's going to get a bloody nose at the end. Like that's, and it's amazing and it's fascinating. But I want to make sure that we call out a couple of other characters though. I thought Awkwafina was going to ruin this movie. No, not offense on her. I love her. I think she's hilarious, but I'm like, is this going to be like too comical? Like she's really funny. Yeah. Is she going to come in here and like just be too much? Even in the serious stuff, like she really brought it. She was really good.
One of the great things also about this movie is that there's so many wonderfully powerful and badass and strong female characters too. Awkwafina being one of them. You wouldn't expect that from her character in the beginning, but she really the character development for her and for Xialing, Shang-Chi's sister, and then Michelle Yeoh's character was always.
I love her.
She's always a badass.
She's gonna be great in anything she's in. I didn't even know she was in it. That's how much research I did before we saw this. But when she came on the screen, I was like, yes, Michelle Yeoh!
Absolutely, right? She could they could just hire her to stand there in the background, and
she makes everything better that she's in. She really does.
Really, she does. She elevates her and Tony Leung, and actually Yunhua, who you may not recognize, but he played the old Archer guy. He was the landlord in Kung Fu Hustle, and he is kind of legendary in old Hong Kong cinema. So it was great to see him do something, and he also has a small but great.
I gotta wonder how many other little extra. There was a Kung Fu Hustle poster in Shang-Chi's bedroom. I want to go back and see how many other Easter eggs from other types of other homages to that world that we didn't see.
I feel like Kung Fu Hustle and Shaolin Soccer were represented in there.
I love that movie. Shaolin Soccer is one of my favorites.
Oh,
it's so goofy, but it's so fun.
But yeah, I will say that there are a couple of moves that Shang-Chi did that definitely reminded me of some stuff from Kung Fu Hustle. Well, just the fact that they changed the 10 rings, because in the comic books the 10 rings were actual rings, and each ring had a specific different power. But I can sort of see why they wanted to change that, because that sounds a lot like the Infinity Stones.
Right.
And so I can see why they decided to change them into bracelets. And those bracelets are actually, to me, I feel like they're based on the old, because in old Wing Chun and old Wushu techniques, there was a technique where if you wanted to strengthen your forearms and your arms, they would put iron bracelets on their forearms going from here to here as resistance, as weight, extra weight.
Interesting.
And so I feel like they, consciously or not, I feel like they pulled a little bit of inspiration from that, which was
Yeah.
great. I loved it. I loved what they did with the Ten Rings. I thought it was.
I thought that
fantastic
was
watching
pretty
them
cool.
enact it.
Yeah.
All of it was just really phenomenal. And I think you're right. I think a lot of people, I think this movie will surprise a lot of people. You know, they're going to go in with a certain expectation. And I think no matter what that expectation is, they're going to be pleasantly surprised by what they get out of here. It was a really, it's one of the best MCU movies for sure, in my opinion. I mean, it's definitely much better than, it's the best MCU movie we've had in a while, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I can't think of a lot of MCU movies that I want to see again right now. Like if you said, let's rewatch this, what would you rewatch?
I'm ready to go now. I
would rewatch this in a heartbeat right now.
Oh,
Yeah,
easily.
I want to see it again.
I actually have on
And
my
that's not to
calendar.
knock the other ones because I definitely would
They're all
rewatch
great.
them.
Sure.
But like, which would I pull off the shelf first to watch? It's got to be this one.
Oh yeah, yeah, easily. Like I love Black Widow, but I didn't feel compelled to. Well, I've got to watch it again right now. After seeing Shang-Chi yesterday, like I've been chomping at the bit to try and see it again because there was just so much going on. It was so great. I have on my calendar marked the date, 45 days from Friday.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that's when Shang-Chi will drop on Disney Plus.
I'll probably be
and-
grabbing it again. Yeah.
And for sure, well, it's going to be free. It's not going to be a premium access.
It's not going to be premium access.
No, that's what
I was assuming it was. I shouldn't have
No,
said
no, no,
that.
no.
Now Disney's going to be like, oh, he would pay it. What? If they'll pay for it. Let's get him to pay for it. That's what
are we
we'll do.
doing?
What?
Well,
are
we don't
you
want
talking
another. We
about?
don't, right? No. From what I understand,
That's phenomenal.
it's a 45-day theatrical exclusive window, which is I think half the time it usually is.
Yeah.
But they're doing
Which again
theater
is, I think,
exclusive.
what Scarlett and Emma are kind of. It's like,
Right.
what about these contracts we talked about?
Exactly.
But no, so but yeah. Oh my gosh, that I can't wait. And
No, I'm
before we
gonna
go,
watch
we
it.
are running up on time, and I do want to mention that because I think this movie. I don't think people realize how important this movie is right now for the MCU because. And that they should really go out if they can and if they feel comfortable. And I know with Delta and all the things, if you feel comfortable going to the theater, you have to go to the theater to see this. And here's why. So as Utah said, 45 days, it's going to be on Disney Plus. I've read several articles that have talked about how the next 3 weeks are very important for Disney right now.
Oh, right.
How this movie performs
Could
is
affect.
actually it might affect and might mean Eternals goes to 2022.
Right, or even Spider-Man.
Maybe even Spider-Man, which
Yeah.
I will riot if that happens. So go see this movie. No, seriously though, it is important.
I did
and
hear that,
a lot-
yeah.
and I'm seeing so many people on Twitter and on my Facebook. Everybody's like, I saw people complaining that this one isn't on Disney Plus, and I'm like. No, it will be in 45 days. Stop complaining. I get it. And these people aren't not going because of COVID. They're just not going because we've introduced such an easier way to consume these movies. And that's fine. I am not knocking that. I love that. That's how I ended up seeing Black Widow.
That's
I paid
awesome.
the $30. We all watched
Yeah.
it here. That was more out of convenience than not wanting to go to the theater. I really wanted to see it, and everybody was here, and our family, and we were just like, let's do it. But because it split that box office, they're really rethinking how they want to do this. We have to still support movies that we want to see on the big screen, and sometimes these are the types of movies that work better on the big screen. I know you have a great HD television. I know that you bought this streaming service. I know that you're really proud of your surround sound system. I've got some of those things too, but you can't the excitement of seeing it in the theater with you guys, right? Because, you'd have to come over to my house to even like be together to do that. And we can't accommodate that right now, but seeing it with you guys. And then, when I saw, Black Panther in the theater, I can't imagine what it would have been like to not see if I had just watched it on TV for the first time.
Oh,
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like the excitement in that room and the cheering that took place, like I was a part of, like that was exciting. And that was the same for Endgame. Every MCU movie that I've seen in the theater, I don't want to lose that aspect of it. Yes, I can get a great sound and picture at home. Yes. You know what I can't get? That community of fans who love these movies, enjoying them and cheering and doing it and coming. Even if it's 6 feet apart and there's less of us in the theater, I don't care. I love to hear everybody cheering and clapping at the end. And that's what I'm hoping survives all this. That's what I really want to see survive. Not necessarily, I'm not saying we can't do them still at home. That's fine. And if that's your preference, great. But don't forget that feeling you had when you saw Endgame in the theater. Don't forget that, because it's not going to be there in your living room. It's just not.
That's true.
That's just me. That's my impassioned plea. That's my I'm going to get off my soapbox now. That's my impassioned plea. I'm not judging anyone who wants to stay home. I think that's fantastic that you have that option now. But I'm also trying to encourage, as the world gone geek, as someone who's trying to encourage us to celebrate our passions and celebrate together our uniqueness, our unity in uniqueness, right? Like the things that make us all unique are what bring us together as geeks. Like that's what the show is all about. That's what we're trying to do. And so I would love to see that still happen in the movie theater, the way it happens at cons, the way that, there's a reason we all go to these things. Don't forget that, guys. Let's hold on to some of that. And be safe doing so. You can still be safe. That's what I'm trying to say. All right. I'm sorry. Soapbox over. I'm glad I had a chance to say it, though.
No, you're absolutely right. The shared experience really amplifies the memory of it. Like, there's no way Captain America wielding Mjolnir would be nearly as powerful or as the same if I watched it in my living room.
Well, especially with the way everybody reacted when you see, and there's videos of that out there on YouTube right now of
the theater
people who were filming the theaters, right? That's how it was in ours too. I mean, I almost jumped out of my chair. Like I was like when I saw it flying, I knew what was happening. Like you just knew it was going to be Cap.
As soon as Thanos was hit, you knew it was going to be Cap.
I
was punching people next to me that I didn't even know in the shoulders, going.
Well, that's the reason people don't want to go back to the theater. You're punching them all the time.
They don't want to go see it with
now.
Me.
We got it.
Yeah, it's my fault.
I'm just playing.
That's why I sat by myself yesterday. Because Karen didn't want to get punched.
Well, the trailers were on when we came in. I couldn't even see anybody. I don't even know where you were sitting. So I just went up to the top.
I actually wasn't there. I left. I haven't seen the movie yet.
Oh my gosh. Well, we are out of time. We need to wrap this up, but what a great discussion. I mean, seriously, go out and see this movie, and not just to save the cinema experience, but because it is a phenomenal movie. It is really fun.
It's incredible.
I can't wait to see it again. Oh yeah, and the big screen.
It
definitely is a big screen movie. A lot of people are like, well, I don't want to go see the next rom-com or a drama necessarily on the big screen. I get that because there's no visual. Now Dune, I might want to see on the big screen because there's a visual element that cinematography is going to be. It's going to be beautiful up there, right? Yeah. So I might or might not. It is going to be an HBO Max. I got to decide what I'm going to do when that comes out. But when there's that visual element, but if it's the next comedy, I don't need that visual element or that camaraderie. I do like to hear other people laugh, you know what I mean, at comedy movies, but I get that you don't want to do that. You want to wait to Netflix to see a comedy or a romantic comedy or whatever.
Right. No, this movie definitely has the cinematography and the visuals that take advantage of the big screen.
Oh, sure do. Yeah.
I mean, it was gorgeous. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys for watching, listening, whatever it is, however you are enjoying this podcast. We appreciate you. We have got some great stuff coming up this season. We really do. We've got some really cool guests lined up. We're going to be revealing some of those as they come.
We will.
Game night is coming back. Yeah, even Utah doesn't know.
What?
That's not true. Game night is coming back. We're trying to settle on a night. It may not be Thursdays yet. We're still trying to figure that out.
It's definitely going to be at night, though.
It is. It's otherwise it loses
not
all.
game night.
It's
It'll
like
be
6
game
o'clock in
day,
the
and
morning,
that's
and we
just
call
what
it
it
game
means.
night. People are like, I don't get it.
They're like, what
Jackbox
time
has a
zone?
brand new party pack coming out with a bunch of new games. So we're hoping. They keep saying fall. I'm looking at my watch because my watch
technically
says
it's-
fall.
Technically, it's still fall.
Yes, it is fall right now. So I'm ready,
Is
Jackbox, and we're hoping
It's
to
gonna be fall for a
to-
couple more months.
We're gonna
Did
we're
it
gonna
already
premiere game night. What? What did you say? We're gonna premiere game night with the new Jackbox, hopefully. So
Leo, you're
keep
okay?
an eye
Did
out
you
for
fall?
that. Keep an eye out for that. We're gonna have a couple of more weeks, and that will come. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, all of the things, the
Something
gram.
fall behind you. Something's falling behind you, Leo.
What are all those called? The gram, all of the different things.
The
Follow us on
grams
all of
and,
those. Yeah.
TikTok.
We're on
I mean,
TikTok
they've
too.
been
I haven't done a
changing.
TikTok all summer, so people are
Is it-
probably not following.
It's not summer anymore.
Number 2.
Not really. Yeah. So here's the theme song because we're gonna wrap it up. There we go. Thank you guys for listening to another episode of
playing us
The
off.
World Gone Geek. Make sure to follow us on all of the socials, all of the fun things like that, so you can keep touch with what's going on. Buy some merch that helps us keep doing this. It helps us pay for things like StreamYard and the things that we're doing. Follow us on Patreon. You can support us there as well. We love you. We'll see you guys. Bye.